Hi there, it's Baz from GotAUkulele with another absolute beginners ukulele video. If you are a seasoned ukulele player or you've already bought one, this is probably not a video for you. But I surprised myself that I hadn't actually done a video like this before, and this is aimed at people who are going out to think about buying their very first ukulele. They've probably been online seeing ukulele discussions and maybe getting confused by some of the terminology that's used surrounding the instrument. It's really not that complicated, but this is a hopefully cover-all guide to the various parts of the instrument. So we'll kick off with this ukulele. It's a Pono concert ukulele. Ukuleles come in four main sizes: soprano, smaller than this, concert, this size, tenor, and baritone with some other exotic versions in between. And this one is a good one to start with because it's a pretty standard shaped ukulele. It's dare I say it, shaped like a guitar. It's the phrase that ukulele players hate to hear, but it is. And basically that guitar shape has what we call an upper bout and a lower bout. These are the bulges. And a waist in between. The waist on a guitar is the bit that you rest on your knee if you are playing sitting down. Not particularly relevant on the ukulele, but it's just a style, a recognized style. You'll get some double bout ukuleles where the top bout and the bottom bout are the same sort of size and they're kind of figure of eight shape, but it's essentially the same thing. There are, of course, other shapes, many other shapes of ukulele, such as the boat paddle, pineapple type shape on this flea. But you can, the sky's the limit. You can have, there's a ukulele out there shaped like a surfboard, flying V guitars, that kind of thing. But for the purpose of this video, this is probably all you need to know. So this is the box, the sound box. This is where the music is projected from, and that is made up of three parts: the top, or the soundboard, the sides, which create the box, and the back. And that's it, really. The soundboard, this is a solid wood top, often made from single pieces of wood on smaller ukes, and made from a couple of pieces of wood on larger ukes. You can probably see the join here. The join is cleaner and clearer on the back because we've got this binding. And there we are, really. That creates the sound. So the top is a couple of pieces of wood here. The sides on the ukulele are sometimes made from one piece of wood that just goes all the way around. But in this case, two pieces because it's slightly larger, and this is where they join. And the back, you can see it on the camera, but quite often now these days the backs will have a bit of a bulge curve to them, which helps with sound projection. I wouldn't stress about that too much. There's plenty of ukuleles I own that have perfectly flat backs, and they play just fine. So what do we find on the top? Well, the first and probably one of the most important parts to a ukulele is this area here, which is collectively called the bridge. And this is the end of the ukulele where the strings stop. Actually, this wooden piece here, the dark piece, is a wooden bridge mounting. But where that magic really happens is in this white strip, which is sometimes made from plastic or bone or artificial materials. This is called the bridge saddle, and the strings pass over the bridge saddle and then attach to the bridge plate itself. If I can get the focus right, there we are. This is a tie bar bridge, probably one of the most common you will see, where strings pass over the top, go through a couple of holes and are knotted in place, rather like a Spanish acoustic guitar. But there are variations on that. Go back to the flea here, my rather messy tying. This is called a slotted bridge, and basically the string fits into the slot with a knot on the end of it, and that's what holds it in place. And then more exotic ukes, such as this canalea tenor, use bridge pins, as you'll see on a steel-strung folk guitar. All do the same thing basically, and it's all just about creating a good anchor point for the strings at the end, because what's happening is when the strings vibrate, this bridge is sending the vibrations straight down into this soundboard top, and those vibrations then are projected and amplified by this, which is called a sound hole, and that's where the volume comes out. This is a standard placing for a sound hole. It's got a bit of a decoration rosette in abalone inlaid around it. Sometimes they're transfers as well, but this is a higher end uke. But I've seen sound holes offset. I've also seen them on the side. They all do the same thing. They create volume. If there was no sound hole there, it would be quite a boxy, flat, dull sound. But that's that really. So we've looked at the main parts of the top. We have a strap button fitted here. That isn't standard on this uke, but more and more ukes are now starting to come with strap buttons. Looking inside the instrument, you'll often get the maker's label. You'll also see this. You can see this notched wood inside. That's called kerfing, and it basically adds strength to the joint between the sides and the back, as you can see. But there's also the same sort of thing on the inside of here, on the top. A further look inside and you'll see some what we call bracing, and they're wooden strips. I'm never going to be able to show you this on the video. Oh, there's one there. And they basically create strength across what is effectively very thin wood on the back and the sides, and it stops the ukulele basically collapsing in on itself. You'll see variations on bracing types on different sorts of ukuleles. If your ukulele has no bracing, it's probably because it's made of ultra thick laminate wood, and I probably would avoid playing it, certainly buying it. You may have seen on my website an article I put up fairly recently about what I call ukulele bling, and that is decoration. I mean, this is finished in gloss, and the edges of the top and the back have what we call binding to decorate the uke. We have some inlaid binding here for the joint between the back and the sides, and also on the butt. None of that's absolutely necessary. It is all about good looks and personal preference. It doesn't change the way the ukulele plays. If you are on a budget, I would certainly try to avoid buying ukuleles that are blinged up to the eyeballs with pearl, abalone, and this, that, and the other, at the expense of actually making a ukulele that plays well. Sometimes at the lower end, the plainer ukuleles have put their money into making the ukulele work. And that's where you should be spending your money, in my opinion. We move on to the neck. The neck protrudes from the body, from a joint in here where it's screwed and glued in place. Some of them dovetail jointed. And basically they hold the length of the string along the instrument up to the other end where it can be tuned. This is called the neck heel. I don't know why. And then the neck protrudes. Sometimes necks are made from the same wood as the ukulele, as this is. This is a solid mahogany ukulele, and that's a mahogany neck, but not always. And in fact, the type of wood used on the neck is not that important, really. It is another aesthetic thing. If you have a look at my ukulele review videos on this channel, you'll see that I often talk about things like the jointing in the neck. On very high-end ukuleles, you'll find that the neck is one piece of wood all the way from here all the way to the heel. If you look closely here, you can see a joint in this neck. So basically it's made from 2 pieces of wood. There's also another joint at the other end. That doesn't really change anything if it's well made. It's not a mark that you're going to be getting a bad ukulele, but cheaper ukes have more joints because they're cheaper to make. So I tend to flag them up in my reviews just as an indication of what's gone into making the instrument. The canalea that I put up on the screen recently has a single piece of wood making the whole neck. Usually laid on top of the neck is another piece of wood, in this case rosewood, for what we call the fingerboard. This is where you play the notes on the ukulele. Older ukes used to have the frets set directly into the wood. There's nothing wrong with that. Rosewood's more hard wearing, basically, and actually gives it a nice look to the whole piece. So yeah, we've got a nice piece of rosewood here set on top and glued on top of the neck, and the frets are basically hammered into grooves and then trimmed on the top of the fingerboard in the correct places. These are made of nickel silver, which they tend to be, but there are some other variations. I talked about binding on the body. This is another area that often gets bound. As you can see here, that is just straight black. It's actually painted, I think, but it hides the edge of the frets. That's just, again, a very aesthetic thing, personal choice. This one is my much higher end canalea that was on the screen. Doesn't have binding on the edges of the fingerboard, so there you go. Also on the outward face of the fingerboard are these dots. These are position markers, which allow the player to know exactly where the fingers are when they're looking down on it. I've never really got them. Again, I think they are just purely about looks, because when you're playing a ukulele, that bit is facing away from my face, and I can't really see those dots very easily unless I tilt the ukulele like this, which is a bad playing technique. Far more important to me are the dots on the side, players' dots, because I can look straight down and see them quite clearly and let me know where I am. I always pick up on these in my reviews because I think they're a mark of a builder that actually thinks about the player rather than just about making money. The other end of the strings, and these are held in tension between, as we said, the bridge saddle up to here, the nut, and that is a mathematical distance which allows this ukulele to play accurately. Again, these are made from usually plastic, bone, or some synthetic material like tusk or corian, and it's cut with 4 little slots in it that the strings run over in the correct position to give you the correct spacing, and that is that. That's quite a neat one. Some of them I've seen are absolutely awful. Up to the headstock, which is where the strings are tied onto the tuning pegs. It's a fairly standard shaped headstock. You get some other weird and wonderful designs up here, which I always quite like. Sometimes the headstock is just simply an extension of the mahogany, and this is an extension of the mahogany, but you'll see that it's also been capped or faced with another contrasting piece of wood. I thought it was ebony. It's actually a very dark rosewood. It's also the place that usually 9 times out of 10 holds the manufacturer's mark. And there we are. Tuners come in a variety of flavours. The most easiest to use and probably the most reliable are these, which are geared tuners. The gears are inside these little sealed units, turned by pegs, turns the gear, which then in turn turns the string post. The string posts are bolted in place, have a small hole through them, through which the string runs, and they wind up the peg when you tighten them up. These have nice, these are ebony buttons. I like small buttons on geared tuners, otherwise I think the ukulele tends to look a bit like Mickey Mouse. But you'll also find friction tuners, which have no gears in them at all, and often get a very bad press. I've seen some horror stories on YouTube of people telling beginners that they should avoid these. Basically, these simply work, they run straight through the uke. It's a bit of an odd-shaped headstock, but they work exactly the same way on any ukulele, and they create friction in this point between the plastic and the metal collar to hold. They can be a bit fiddly though if they are cheaper friction tuners, but let me assure you, if you get yourself a decent set of friction tuners, I think they're probably the best tuners you can get on a ukulele. Sadly, not many of them exist on cheap end ukes. So yeah, there's your tuners, and that is it really. It's as simple as that. So we have soundbox, top, sides, back, bridge and bridge saddle, neck, fingerboard and frets, the nut, the headstock, and the tuners. And I hope that helps you if you're setting out and getting your first ukulele. Do have a look, and if you want to, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to the GotAUkulele channel, or have a look at the GotAUkulele website, www.GotAUkulele.com, where there are tons of beginner tips, instrument reviews, and the like. Everything a new ukulele player needs. Have fun. If you're buying your first ukulele, good luck with it, and get in touch with me through the website if you've got any queries or have any questions. I'll see you soon.